Okay, we're ready to add our obstacles, and then we'll add a finish line with a particle system effect. So to add the obstacles, we created our prefab, and as you know, we can just drag that prefab up here into the scene, the hierarchy, and it'll keep dragging more of it in. But the problem with that is that it's going to put all of them in the same place, which isn't a big deal. I mean, we can come back here and we can grab each of them and move them and rearrange them. But another way to do it, let me undo those. Another way to do it is to actually drag it right into the scene, so I can go from here and drag it where I want it. So that would be another option. A third option, which is probably going to be our best option this time, is to actually put one in the scene, connect the script, and then copy and paste. And the reason for that, if you remember back a few videos ago, when we added the script here, we weren't able to drag the car down and add it in the prefab. It actually had to be in the scene. Well, that means that each time we drag this prefab into the scene, we're going to have to then go up and drag the car down and add it to the car script option here. Instead of dragging them from the prefab onto the scene, I'm going to do Control C and then Control V, and you can see I now have another obstacle, and I'm going to drag and move. So make sure that you're on your move tool here. Move that obstacle and place it where I want it. The reason I'm copying and pasting is now if I look at obstacle 1, the car script is already connected because I copied this one that already had the car script connected as well. So that's going to be the faster, easier way. So go ahead and take some time to set up your scene. One thing to remember, you do not have to keep the size the same on the prefabs. So if you wanted to do something like this, let me go ahead and drag get my scale tool, make that a little thinner. And then I'm going to copy and paste that one. So if I wanted to do something like this to make one that the car had to go in between, I can do that. I still keep all the other properties of the prefab, but I've just made a different size. So take a little bit of time, set up your scene. I'm going to pause the video so you're not needing to watch me place all my obstacles, but place obstacles all the way down to the end, and then when you are done, go ahead and start the video back up, and we will add in the finish line with the particle system. Okay, now I'm adding in my last obstacle. And there we go. Now it's going to be important. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at all my spacing to make sure they're spaced the same. It's going to be important that you test your scene, make sure that your obstacles are far enough apart to be able to drive through them, but close enough together to make the game kind of challenging, which this is going to be pretty challenging from the very beginning. Oh, almost fell off the road there. So mine looks like it is pretty good. So I am ready now to add in a finish line with a particle system. So to do that, the finish line is just going to be another cube. So I want to get to the end of my road here. If you're clear at the beginning, remember what you can do is you can click on the last obstacle, and then you can hit F and it will zoom in on that last obstacle and get you down there to the end of your road. So down here I'm going to add in a cube that is actually going to be my finish line. But before that, I do that, notice that we have all these obstacles over here, and their names, it's fine that it just has obstacle 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't need different names for them. But when you start getting lots and lots of objects in a larger game, this can get rather cluttered. And an easy way to organize is to right-click in your hierarchy, create an empty object, and I'm going to call this my obstacles. This is going to hold all of them. And then I'm going to move each of them into that empty object. But instead of doing them one at a time, I'm going to select the first one, hold Shift on the keyboard, and select the last one. So now you can see all of them are selected. And then I'm going to drag these into obstacles. And the advantage of that now is since they're all grouped together, I can collapse them using this little arrow, and it cleans up my hierarchy. So it's not an essential step, but it's definitely a useful one as you get more and more objects. All right, so now I'm going to add in the finish line. The finish line, once again, is just going to be another cube. So I'm going to right click, go to 3D object, add a cube. I'll rename it road, or sorry, finish line. And it put it right in front of my camera, so I need to zoom out a little bit here. I want to move this object so it's at the end of my road. and then I'm going to resize it so it's the same width as the road. So using my scale tool, I need to widen it a bit. Now I could keep messing around and try to get it exact, or I can just look at the size of my road, click on my road, look at its width and see its scale. So its scale is 1.89, and then I can click on this, I can change this to 1.89, and that's a whole lot faster and easier, but they don't have to be exact, so it doesn't matter how you do that. Now you could make this like a solid wall that you actually run into at the end. That would be one option. Or I can drag this down, just make it look something like that, so that it's kind of almost like on your long jump where you have the board at the end of the runway. It looks almost something like that, I guess. But this is going to be my finish line. When I hit this, the reason I added it as a cube, because I want to then add a script to this. When I hit this, I want to trigger game over. So that's why I am doing it this way. Okay, so now I'm ready to add the particle system. So the particle system is added the same way as everything else. I'm going to come over here and right click. This time I'm going to go down to effects, and then under effects you will see particle system. Okay, and it should add it there towards the end of the scene, since that's where we are currently at. I'm going to rotate around and make sure I get this exactly where I want it. So I definitely want it right there on the finish line and kind of down in the finish line, so it looks like it's coming up out of it. So that actually looks pretty good right there. Whoa, no it does not. It's interesting how as you change your rotation, it can definitely make things look a little bit different. That was not where I thought it was. There we go, now it looks good. Alright, so my particle system is coming out of there. So that doesn't look bad as it is right now, but we can do a little bit to improve this and make it look better. So the first thing I'm going to do, with the particle system selected, I'm going to come over here to the particle system properties, and I don't want it to keep going on and on forever. I just want like a quick burst of like confetti or something when I hit the line. So I'm going to decrease this to something like 0.2 for the duration, so that's going to make it very short. Actually put 0.2, there we go. Okay, so that's going to make it very short. Now it looks like it hasn't changed anything, and that's because right now I have this just constantly looping. If I don't want it to constantly loop, then what I need to do is go down and find that option. So that is right here underneath of duration. I'm going to uncheck looping. Now we don't get to see the effect anymore, so what I have to do is just hit play. And there we go. That was pretty unexciting. So what we need to do now is increase the number of particles that burst on there. Before I go down and do that, I'm also going to uncheck this option that says play on awake, because I don't want the burst to happen as soon as the game starts. So play on awake means as soon as the particle system loads, it would play. Well, that's going to be as soon as the game loads, so we don't want that. So we're going to uncheck that one as well. Then let's go to the start speed, which is right here, start speed. And I'm going to click on the little drop down there, and I'm actually going to do this as a random between two constants. And I'm going to do a start speed between 5's good, and we'll do like 20 on this one. So not all the graffiti won't all like go at the same time. The particles will be at slightly different speeds, which will make it look a little bit better. And then I'm also going to change the size so they aren't all the same size. So on start size, same thing. I want some different size ones, so I'm going to choose random between two constants. And for mine, I think I'm going to do something like, I don't know, maybe 0.25, and let's try 2. Now as you start testing this and see what it looks like, you can obviously adjust this to whatever you think looks good for yours. Start colors, let's do that as well. So right here I could do just one color for all of them if you want to do just one color, or I can also do a random between two colors. So I could do something like between, let's say I do between yellow and, yeah, that's good for that one. Let's do red for that one. So between yellow and red. So let's try that. Now it's still not going to look very good because when I hit play, it's still only going to do one. So now what I need to do is down under emission. So right here, it's a different section. I need to open that section. And rate over time, I need to increase that. So I need to increase that to something fairly large. So maybe something like, let's see what 100 does. That doesn't look too bad. So now instead of just getting that one, stop, there we go, we get a nice little burst. So that looked decent. Basically, to calculate how many are actually getting created, my duration is only 1/5 of a second. So if I divide that by 5, I can see that I'm going to get 20 of them. So there should be about 20 of those that get created. If I want more, let's say maybe I'll change this to 200, then there we go, get even bigger bursts. So once again, it's game of personal preference, whatever you prefer there. Make it look good in your opinion. Then the last thing I want to do here is I want to change the shape. Right now the shape is a cone. So expand shape, and you'll see the very first option there, shape. And there's a bunch of different options that you can play around with here to see what the effects look like. If I choose sphere and hit play, okay, that's what sphere is going to look like. Personally, I like hemisphere, and that's what I'm going to do for mine. So it looks like that, but you can do whatever you want, play around with those shapes. And then once you have this the way you want, then we're going to be ready to go to the next video where we will actually create our script for the game over, and we'll trigger that effect when we hit the finish line.